Hello, my name is Annie Mauboules and I'm a social planner with the District of North Vancouver. I'll be presenting today on a project that the district did with Vancouver Coastal Health, and the title of my presentation is Translating Evidence to Practice, Practical Ways to Influence Community Design at the Local Level. The agenda today, as you can see, will provide a bit of background about the project and the partnership between the district and Vancouver Coastal Health, and will provide a planning perspective on the impact of health on the built environment. And it will include examples of practical ways for health and planning to work together to try to achieve some of the cornerstones of the policies around a healthy built environment. We'll talk also around the lessons learned, so that there's some good ability for other areas to try to replicate what worked and what didn't in the project that we worked on together. By way of background, I just wanted to share a little bit about what the District of North Vancouver looks like. It's very much a suburban municipality. It's part of 3 municipalities on the North Shore, which is just adjacent to the city of Vancouver. Our population is around 90,000 people, and the work that we did with Vancouver Coastal Health had to do with our update of our official community plan. And the official community plan is a master plan for the district, and it anticipates an increase in about 10,000 people by the year 2030. And so the cornerstone of the plan was, how do we accommodate the additional population within the borders and boundaries of our municipality. Our partner in the work is Vancouver Coastal Health, and they have a mandate that includes the North Shore, as well as the sea to sky region of Vancouver. And so quite a number of municipalities, 14, and many of those are rural. And the district is probably one of the more urban municipalities that Vancouver Coastal Health works with, but it's important to point out that there are a lot of different types of municipalities that are within the mandate of Vancouver Coastal Health. Their work with us focused specifically on the District of North Vancouver. The map that you see here is really the cornerstone of our official community plan. The idea behind the OCP is a concept that we call the network of centers. And the key thing to note is that the areas anticipated for growth and change and the areas anticipated to absorb some of the 10,000 people that we're expecting by the years 2030 are going to be focused in 4 key areas of the municipality. And those are Lynn Valley and Lower Lynn, which are the major town centers, and you'll see those on the map with the big orange dots. And then the smaller village centers, and we're focusing on 2 for this OCP. The first is the Lower Cap Marine Drive area, which is on the far left-hand side of the map. And then Maplewood, which is just beside the Lower Lynn major town center. So collectively, those 4 will accommodate the population growth we're expecting. There are some other village centers that you'll see on the map. Those are on a lower tier for growth and change, but nonetheless, we will see some change through to 2030 in those areas as well. One of the key things to point out is the local area plans that were in place before the OCP, which really guided the change from a neighborhood-specific level, are rescinded now as part of the adoption of the OCP. And there was anticipated to be, and there was, quite a lot of resistance to the rescinding of the local area plans. And so there was a lot of work to do to try to educate people on why and how we would accommodate the growth that was anticipated through to 2030. And that was one of the key reasons that we partnered with Vancouver Coastal Health in this work. Wanted to just share quickly the partnership at the staff level between the District and Vancouver Coastal Health. The team itself included district policy planning staff, social planning staff, as well as transportation and parks staff, but not as much as the policy and social planning staff. For Vancouver Coastal Health, it included the medical health officer, the environmental health officer, staff from the population health department, as well as community developers who were already very active working in particular with social planning at the District of North Vancouver. The project itself I'll get into the details of today, but at the cornerstone of the project was a memorandum of understanding that was signed between staff that would help guide the work that we did together with the official community plan. And the lessons learned, I think, are really the key focus of the presentation today as far as transferable information for those listening. The lessons learned will be focused on at the end of the presentation in more detail, but there were some very so people always ask me, well, what was it? What was actually the memorandum of understanding? And I am able to provide that for anyone that's interested, but it's about a 6-page document, and it's signed by our general manager for planning and the provincial medical health officer, and really it helps to articulate some of the history of the work together that we've done, as well as what the key objectives are in the MOU and the partnership around the official community plan. And I think most importantly what the next steps were going to be. So I'll get into that in a bit more detail in the next slide, but overall the MOU helped guide the development of the OCP, and it really helped reach, we hoped at the time, and it did in fact come true, that we would reach a broader community of those that weren't otherwise engaged in planning processes. We thought needed to be, because of the effect that local planning has on the healthy built environment and the overall health of the community. Working with Vancouver Coastal Health really became a cornerstone of a strategy to expand consultations beyond the usual folks. And the reasons that we felt that was important, as you can see around some of the key issues on the right-hand side of the slide, were really challenging. We had a challenging demographic profile, an aging population, very few young families able to move into the municipality. Part of the reason for that, a big part of the reason, was the lack of housing diversity and affordability. So very much the District North Van is a single family home type of municipality. There isn't much option there, and as a result the cost of housing is really high. Also connected to that, with the aging population, loss of jobs is loss of economic vibrancy. So if what we were hoping for is for people to live, work, play in our community, the work part of that equation was becoming increasingly challenging. People needed to drive away for employment, and even drive within the boundaries of the municipality with its spread out design created a large environmental footprint that is going to become increasingly challenging. And there are also increasing social issues. We've had regional homeless counts since 2002 and have seen an increase in people that are homeless, certainly an increase in poverty and some of the associated social issues. So really wanting to address those as well through some affordable housing and improved services, many of which are provided through municipal infrastructure such as community centers, which right now we've got many aging facilities and needing resources to improve those. So some real key challenges that we needed to address, and we really felt the partnership with Vancouver Coastal Health helped provide a comprehensive framework to address those challenges within our OCP. So the key objectives of the Memorandum of Understanding were quite succinct. There were four of them. And really, as a place to start, we used the OCP as a way to promote policies that encouraged overall health. It seems really simple, but I think that the connection between land use and health isn't always clear. And I think that the MOU really helped to articulate that in fact a healthy built environment had everything to do with an official community plan and how communities were designed to be walkable and livable, and that in fact really did promote and benefit a healthy lifestyle. The second objective was to raise the awareness amongst the public about the cascading implications of doing nothing, that we really needed to address the challenges that I've just mentioned around housing diversity and an aging population. And the MOU was a way to reach a new public, if you can say, to try to articulate the urgency around needing to start to think about accommodating growth and change, and providing some ability for people to live a more healthy lifestyle within the boundaries of the District of North Van. A third point, very important, was an evaluation. And so we focused on evaluating the information sharing that we did as organizations, so between Vancouver Coastal Health and the municipality, but then we also wanted to evaluate that public engagement work that we did, as that really was the key thing that we focused on. And so there was an evaluation done as part of the funding that Vancouver Coastal Health received for their work in relation to the OCP. And I think it was really important to be able to reflect back and really distill some of the lessons learned, which I'll share later. And the final objective, which is particularly important right now, is that the work related to the OCP didn't need to end with the OCP adoption, which happened this past summer. That really we would build on the partnership and continue to work together, so that it wasn't just a one-time only partnership, but really a way to work with a newly enlightened public, so to speak, and so specifically, what did it look like? I think this is kind of the nuts and bolts of the presentation. What exactly did Vancouver Coastal Health do for our process related to the official community plan? And there were some really basic things, I think easy to do in a way, which is nice if you're thinking about doing this in your own community. Some of the examples are the feedback at the staff level on our draft policies and processes. So we had some of the staff I mentioned earlier from Vancouver Coastal Health work with us in our planning department in the development of not only the process but the policies leading up to the final OCP policy document. And so they participated in staff meetings, reflected on draft policies, everything from transportation to the economy, social inclusion, well-being, parks, land use, and we're able to give a health perspective and a health lens to the work that we were doing on draft policies, which was really useful. The other place where they participated was in public consultation events, and so we had many public consultations, many different kinds of public consultation leading up to OCP adoption, and Vancouver Coastal Health staff often participated in those by being able to be available to answer questions or to help facilitate breakout tables or discuss display materials, which was also very useful. We also had some great work done by our medical health officer by way of opt-ed pieces in local papers. And we had those as part of a larger communications plan, so that the presentation of material related to whatever stage we were at in the OCP, and our medical health officer was able to reflect on those in the opinion section of our local paper. It was our local community paper, which is well read. Further to that, Dr. Brian O'Connor also presented at key points during our public presentations and consultations as a keynote speaker. So he helped frame the discussion from a public health perspective, and really, I think, helped relay the message around the importance of the healthy built environment from a perspective that wasn't a municipal planner's perspective, which was really important. I always joke that if planners say it, people don't quite believe us, but when the medical health officer says it, it resonates with people, and I think people really stand up and pay attention. So that happened several times, and I think was really key in messaging what we were trying to achieve with our OCP, not only to the public, but also to the elected officials who were ultimately responsible for making the final decision on the OCP. Vancouver Coastal Health also created some display materials for public consultation, some display boards that reflected the effect of land use decisions on public health and personal health, which were really useful, and they were able to speak to those at the public events that I mentioned they attended earlier. And finally, they also created a policy brief entitled Speaking Up for Health. And that policy brief was a document that we used often. It was online, it was available at public meetings, and was really a compelling way to describe the importance of making some accommodation for growth and change in this network of centers concept for the OCP, and the importance of that. So all of those things combined together over the course of about a year and a half were really key in the work that we did as part of the MOU. And as you can see, they're not super complicated. I think it just needed coordination and attention from staff from both organizations, and some commitment around the messaging and the consistency in the messaging. So one of the things I mentioned earlier is that we didn't want the official community plan, which, if I haven't mentioned, was adopted unanimously by our council last summer, so in the summer of 2011. We didn't want the OCP and all of the work that we did with Vancouver Coastal Health and some of their other partners to be the only thing that we did. And now that we have an OCP that's adopted, we're tasked with implementing that OCP. So each of the 4 town and village centers are moving from conceptual planning to implementation planning as we speak. And we really wanted to build on the partnership with health, with our health partners. And so we've done a couple of things already. The first was a walkability tour, and that happened in October, a few months after OCP adoption, and it was very well attended. Over 100 people came out on a dark evening to do a walkability tour of our major town center in Lynn Valley. And the idea was that we would have a tour of the community and observe through the eyes of regular folks, community members, what makes something walkable and what doesn't. And so the work here really is led by our Heart and Stroke Foundation, and they've got an active group of volunteers on the North Shore, and we were really trying to reach those volunteers who have a particular interest, obviously, in health and walkability. And I know that all of the feedback that we received from this event was very positive. I think people really liked looking through a health lens when they walked around their neighborhood, and really seeing what worked and what didn't. And it really does help to move some of the conceptual ideas around walkability and smart growth, if you want to say, to reality, and helps to create some community advocacy around doing some of that type of planning. So as a follow-up to the walkability tour, we'll be working on, and it's coming up fairly quickly, a World Cafe for Lynn Valley. So for those that were interested and signed up in October, there'll be invitation to come and do some more detailed work on the town center implementation plan, and gaining their feedback on some of the ideas and how they've moved forward since OCP adoption. So there was a lot of interest from the public. I think the public really enjoyed the activity of the walkability tour. Likewise, I think they will for the World Cafe, and I think it's a very practical way for planning and health to come together, share the same message, and really reach out to people who otherwise probably wouldn't. So by way of conclusion, I just wanted to talk quickly about the lessons learned. I think that one of the challenges with the work that we did with Vancouver Coastal Health was the timeline and process. We had over 75 different kinds of consultations related to the OCP, and we had weekly staff meetings to try to churn all of that out and adapt and refine and reflect feedback. And I think one of the key challenges was, how do we involve our health partners in that work? And do they come to every meeting every week? Are they part of the staff team, or do we call them in at key points when we're ready beyond draft with a suite of policies? And so I think that sometimes we should have included them more, and other times perhaps their time was wasted while we grappled with what the best way was to move forward. So it's a very compact timeline, a lot of work, and I think that there could be some improvements in how we actually share information and coordinate feedback. I think often we didn't give health enough time to reflect on some of the policies that we had drafted, and the flip side of it is that health perhaps didn't have in their back pocket, so to speak, enough feedback and draft thinking around policy-wise around transportation parks, the economy, to be able to participate within our timeline. So that was a challenge, and I think that's something, as we continue our work together, we can address. It was the first time that we had done this work together, and so I think it's probably natural to realize that you're kind of trying to do too much with not enough time. The other piece was around the other challenge, I should say, was around the level of policy detail. I think that we had very specific languages that we were dealing with at the planning level, and we weren't sure when and how to include Vancouver Coastal Health in developing some of that policy language. Should they be there at the beginning? Should they reflect on what we had drafted, or should they reflect on the feedback that we received from the public and then provide input? So the policy detail was very detailed in this lead up to OCP, and I think that sometimes it was really difficult to see where VCH, Vancouver Coastal Health, fit in and where their feedback could be most useful. So I think the real bonuses of the work that we did together with Vancouver Coastal Health and groups like Heart and Stroke was the credibility of the message. I think, as I mentioned, having health professionals speak about the healthy built environment from a health perspective really helped relay the message that we were trying to relay from a planning perspective. And we really are saying the same things. I always make a point of saying that what planners want and what health professionals want is really the same thing. We don't need to necessarily teach each other about the importance of the healthy built environment, but what I really think is important is being able to frame the importance of that policy approach to the general public. And I really think that for whatever reason, the credibility of that message coming from health is much more compelling and very much more successful coming from health. The other thing that I've talked a bit about is the ability to reach a wider audience. We have regular people that participate, and I would say they're the vocal minority often in our planning processes. The involvement of Vancouver Coastal Health allowed us to cast the net of public participation much wider. They reached a totally different type of audience, and an audience that was very much interested in some of the things that we were talking about from that healthy built environment perspective, which was really important, and I think was a cornerstone of why it was successful. The other lesson learned that was an interesting one that was unexpected was the internal partnership and connection amongst staff within Vancouver Coastal Health even. The population health staff have a regional focus, and the community development staff have a local North Shore focus. And I don't know that they did a lot of work together, and so it was very interesting that the work around the OCP allowed those interdepartmental connections within Vancouver Coastal Health, but likewise between the District of Vancouver Coastal Health. We work a lot with our local health partners, but not those at the regional level. And so the connection with population health at that regional level was a first for many staff, and I think now I've seen now that there continues to be interest in partnering. And so that communication and liaison within the staff groups was really important, and I think will benefit us all long term. And then finally, the opportunity to learn from both organizations. The evaluation of the work that we're doing, I think, is really key in making sure that we're continuing to adjust and refine our approach and to make it as successful as we can. And I think often we don't take time to do evaluation, but in this case, I think mostly thanks to Vancouver Coastal Health, who is fantastic at evaluation. We've made some time to. So that concludes my presentation. If anyone has any questions or would like more information, my email is on this slide, and I'd be happy to share copies of the MOU or to direct you to our adopted official community plan so that you can see what the plan looks like and maybe look for some of the impact that Vancouver Coastal has.